Hi, I'm Brooke, and I'm here today with Stephanie, and we're going to do a wonderful, successful story for the Meet RX Success Story podcast. And I'm so glad that Stephanie is with me today to explain and share with us her success on Carnivore. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fabulous. Thank you for asking.
Great. Thanks again for being willing to share with everyone the success that you've had with the carnivore diet. So let's just start right in. I'm really curious, what brought you to the carnivore diet?
What brought me to carnivore? A friend of mine, Peter Defty, who also works with endurance athletes, had told me about Esme Lafleur's website and about carnivore, and that was in 2015. So I found out about carnivore before, I guess, the big craze happened. And I read the success stories in there. And at the time, I had already switched to keto, but I used to be, let's go back a few years. I was an endurance athlete. I still am. And I was following the low fat, high carbohydrate diet, and I just couldn't get faster. I got slower and fatter. And then eventually my hormones tanked, and it was really not a good story. And I had heard about some vegan endurance athletes who did really well, like Scott Jurek and some others. So I tried that. This is before I went keto or anything, and then my health just tanked. I was really a very sick person. And I started reading more and found out about paleo. So I switched to paleo and I started to feel better. I started to have, I used to have horrible acne and um, just poor digestion. I was really cranky all the time. I had joint pain, and paleo fixed a lot of things, but I was still fat and didn't feel as good as I would have liked. So then I went low carb paleo, started to feel better, and then went keto paleo. And a friend of mine, Peter, told me about the carnivore diet, and I read the success story. So I went carnivore and I felt much better, and I finally started to lose weight. My hormones finally started to improve. Well, my hormones had gradually improved along, that journey. And I had been on thyroid medication for a number of years. And I got off of the thyroid medication, got off all of my hormones. I had allergies and asthma before, got off of all my allergy and asthma medication. So I became like medication free. I was on 5 medications, $80 a month copay that I was able to ditch all of it. And so that's really how I found carnivore. I've toggled back and forth between carnivore and keto like over the years, just because I'm like, I want some variety. But I always go back to carnivore because it's just, I feel better. And I try to do carnivore with dairy. And even though I love dairy, but I just noticed I don't feel as well with dairy. So that's my basic story. I mean, I still have on and hormone issues, and I realized, and I don't have necessarily the body composition I wanted. So I started working with Robert Sykes, who does the Keto Savage coaching. And so I still eat carnivore, but he gives me specific macros. And I just realized that even as a carnivore, I wasn't eating enough for my activity level. And that was still affecting my hormones where I couldn't drop any weight. So since I've been working with him in January, he's upped my calories to over 2,000, which for some people is not anything. But for me, that was a lot more than I am eating. And he's toggled down of protein and fats. So right now I'm about 50-50 protein fat, and starting to feel better. And I've done cycling events as a carnivore, but I've never done a triathlon. I used to do triathlons when I was the low fat, high carbohydrate athlete. So I decided to train for another triathlon as a carnivore. So we'll see how it goes.
Cool. That sounds great. Well,
Yeah.
have you, did you ever do just a very simple, basic carnivore of just meat and salts?
Yeah, I've done every version of carnivore you can do. I can
It's been,
do,
'cause it's been five.
I done, I done like no organ meats, lots of organ meats. I've done like just salt beef. I've done the PKD carnivore. I mean, I've just done all kinds of variations. I've done like, I guess you could say dirty carnivore, like, bacon and sausage and and cheese. But yeah, I mean, I think that because I had dieted so much, and even as a low fat athlete, I was always trying to lose weight. So I think I just really messed up my leptin and ghrelin signaling for so many years, probably since I was a, kid, because I, started dieting as a child, but I I just wasn't able to determine if I was hungry or not.
Mhm.
So I think that now that I've been eating more, that I've been able to, now my hunger signals are a little better. But I mean, I've still gotten faster as following the carnivore diet, but I never really got lean, like thin. And not that I'm, according to Dr. Maffetone, if you have a weight problem, if your waist is over half your height. And my waist is under half my height. So according to that, I'm not over unhealthy range of body composition, but it's just not where I want to be. It's not like I feel, although I'm 50 and maybe some people are like, yeah, you should be happy where you're at, but I still would like a little better body composition. And some of it's just for cycling. I want a better power to weight ratio, but
Yeah, it sounds like you're really, really active. How many miles are you putting in per week with cycling?
well, I mean, right now I'm in base training, so it's not that much, but I don't know the mileage, I know the time. Probably about my long rides are 2.5, 3 hours, and then 2 short rides. So 5 hours of cycling, and then probably 4 hours of running a week. And then,
A whole lot of activity.
yeah, and I know, like, I've read Charles Washington's comments about, if you need to lose weight, you should stop exercising and just follow the diet. But I mean, my whole life I'm a endurance coach. My whole social life is around activity. So it's like I would rather be a fat cyclist than a thin not cyclist.
Yeah,
So
good.
I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. And I don't like, it's not that important to me. I would like to be thinner, but it's not as important to me as like not being able to hang out with my friends. So,
Absolutely.
or, so that's my thing. I guess if somebody who is, I've read all of Kelly Hogan's post and everything, and she was saying, she had to stop exercising, but she was only exercising to lose weight, but that's not why I exercise. I exercise because I enjoy being outside and being outside. Right now, I'm not riding with my friends or running with friends. I still go to the lake to paddleboard, stand up paddleboard, but we maintain our 6 feet apart.
Yes, we do. So I'm curious, do you lift weights?
I do lift weights, not as much now that the gym is closed, but I do. And I've gone back and forth between less endurance, more weightlifting, but it didn't really make much of a difference because I still was, you know, I still wasn't eating very much, which is probably why I wasn't able to put on as much muscle as I wanted. Like right now, because we're in a build phase with Robert Sykes and his coaching, like I've been adding a lot more food and I have been gaining weight, but my measurements are staying the same. So I'm obviously putting on muscle. And I guess because I was a little delusional in the past. I'm like, I'm eating carnivore and lifting weights. I don't need to eat more. I still need to eat like I was stuck in that little protein sparing modified fast sort of mindset, which did not work. I'll tell you, I've tried protein sparing modified fast, which for those who don't know, it's like, it's this idea you eat a lot of protein and not a lot of fat. And if you have quote unquote fat on your body, you don't need to add fat to your diet. And I'll tell you, I did not feel good following that. And I didn't really have any good results. Didn't have any good results. So I think that's sort of I mean, I've seen people who've posted that it's worked for them, but it just never worked for me.
And do you do other fasts? Are you an intermittent?
I do intermittent fasting regularly. I usually eat 2 meals a day, and I probably do like a 18-6 daily. And sometimes I do a 24, a 20-hour fast and a 4-hour eating window. I don't mind eating having a condensed eating window. I noticed that multiple day fasts don't make me feel good. And I don't know, it's like my activity level and fasting. And some days I'm like, I just can't fast today because I'm hungry. But.
Well, what other, so it sounds like you're still working it out and tweaking it and figuring around what's best for you with your really active physical life with cycling and running and maybe a little bit of lifting, it sounds like. So it sounds
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I do some body weight exercises and I have some exercise bands at home, but yeah.
what are some of the other features that you noticed, or did you? I mean, since you've been eating this way for about 5 years, and your skin is beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you. You know what? I think for one, I just generally, when I eat carnivore, I don't feel bloated. I don't have gas. That's the huge one. Before I switched to carnivore, I always had gas, which is embarrassing for one. And it's just an annoying. So I don't have gas. I don't have asthma. I can breathe. So that's a big one. And I think carnivore is so easy to eat because you can, if you're ever hungry, you could always go through a drive-through and get just hamburger patties, and it's cheap. So it's like some places charge you more. I noticed, like, if you go to Freddy's, it depends on the person who's working there, whether you can get, they either charge you as like a full burger with nothing else, or if you just get the a la carte patties. But it's super simple. And some people are like, oh, the quality of meat. I'm like, I don't really. At home, I buy butcher box and I buy from the local butcher here. So I buy higher quality meat at home that I eat from the house. But, I don't freak out about getting a burger patty from In-N-Out or whatever. And you can always get a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store, and my friend just told me about cooking wings in first the Instapot and then browning them, and those are fabulous.
Do you have an air fryer?
I do have an air fryer. So, but I made such a big batch that my air fryer is small and I couldn't get as many. And I like to eat wings. So some carnivores don't eat spices. I sometimes add spice, sometimes not, but I love salt and vinegar wings. So I just put vinegar and salt on the wings. And my friend Danny Vega, who does the carnivore cut thing, he told me about getting powdered vinegar,
Oh,
and
that's interesting.
that you can get from Amazon,
Oh,
although that you can sprinkle on, because I just dip the wings. I dip the wings in vinegar and then sprinkle them with salt.
okay.
But the powdered vinegar is supposed to be super fabulous.
That sounds nice.
So,
You didn't use the Crystal Louisiana hot sauce?
I've never had the Crystal Louisiana hot
Well,
sauce.
it's just it's just fermented cayenne and vinegar and salt. So it
Oh,
has a really nice vinegar taste, and it's at every grocery store. Yeah, check it out. It's kind of the
oh,
classic buffalo wings um, sauce. I think the
yeah.
classic buffalo wing sauce is one part that, one part melted butter together, and then you just roll the wings in it after they're cooked.
Oh, that sounds really good though, because I do dip them in. Well, I stopped doing butter just recently because I'm trying to really get all the dairy out of my diet, because I've had some allergy issues since everything's blooming here in Phoenix. And I am like 98.2% sure it's because of the extra dairy. And I really have to I probably shouldn't even do ghee, but I do. I have noticed it because I would wake up with my nose stuffy and I'm like, I think it's the dairy. So my nose is less stuffy, still have a little bit of um, stuff, but I just got off the dairy this week, or the butter. So I made a whole bunch of ghee, and it seems like it's helping. I might have to even get rid of the ghee, but I do render like big chunks of fat. I get fat from the store and then make crackling, um,
And
and
render.
then have my lard or tallow, depending on which animal it's from.
Nice. So, did you notice when you were eating dairy, like cheese, actually really eating it in meals, was besides respiratory things or feeling stuffy, which it sounds like what you were saying,
Yeah.
was there any kind of like difference in weight gain, weight loss, or anything?
Well, I will tell you, I have a hard time in general losing weight, and I since I am getting rid of dairy, we'll see if the scale moves the other way. But I'm eating a lot more food than I was before too. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm just a weekend. I'm just since Sunday gotten rid of the butter, because usually it's not that hard for me to avoid just regular cheese. It's just the darn butter that I love so much.
Do you drink coffee?
I do drink coffee, and I ditched the heavy cream, but I was putting butter in the coffee, but now I'm adding ghee to the coffee instead of butter.
So we'll see, I guess, what getting rid of all the dairy, including butter, if it makes a difference for you.
Yeah, we'll see. And I've gone toggled back and forth between giving up coffee and drinking coffee, and I don't notice any difference with the coffee. Although I can tell you I'm super sensitive to caffeine, that if I have coffee in the afternoon, I won't be able to sleep. And I think that's something new since switching, well, new since switching to carnivore. Um, my my tolerance of caffeine and alcohol. Occasionally I would drink red wine, but I generally can't drink more than a glass, like 5 ounces, and not like really feel it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe feel it the next day too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I usually, save that for like girls' nights or whatever. But make sure for I my strategy for alcohol is I get club soda with it, and then I just keep filling the club soda in the glass. So that always looks like I have something to drink. Because if it starts to get empty, then people want to give you something. And I'm like, I don't know, I've been brainwashed as a child. Like this was actually the hardest thing from carnivore. Is switching to carnivore is going places and people offering food and saying no. That is the biggest challenge. So I just have strategies to like not have to deal with saying no. Although when my son and I had a deer permit, or we were deer hunting and we were staying with my aunt, and she came, she made this big old batch of chili and was like so happy to feed us. And I'm like, all right, this is my great aunt. She's 80 years old. I'm just going to eat the silly chili. But, but you know, it's just because, especially because in our family, like making food for someone is like, I'm showing you I love you. And so
Sometimes you have to eat the silly chili.
yeah, so I ate the silly chili and it was all right. I had gas later, but you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially beans are the worst for me, but legumes
Be-
are one thing.
Beans are the worst. I don't think anyone should eat beans ever. I mean, come on, everyone gets gas from beans.
Yes. And you know, I remember when I had like back in the day, like when I was doing the vegan experiment, and this is like, you know, 10 years ago now, but beans used to give me such abdominal pain and gas. And my friend told me, who was vegan, and she's like, oh, well, you just have to eat more of them, your body will adapt. And like, no, my body never adapted. And amazing how funny, I can eat a big old thing of brisket and I never get gas.
And if you're an athlete, if you're a runner, if you're an athlete, you're having to eat a lot of food. And so when you're a vegetarian or plant-based athlete, you're eating a lot of this really distressing food. It's like gas would be just part of the deal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I just don't ever want to go to that place again. I was so, it's so crazy. Like people, I'm 50 now, and people say, oh, you know, aging, you're getting creaky. I'm like, what? I feel better now at 50 than I did when I was 20, when I did when I was 15 or I mean, I never felt good when I was younger.
That's
So it's,
fantastic. So many people just that are runners, they just have to drop off of running. So many friends of mine they just can't run anymore because it hurts.
well, yeah, it used to hurt. And that, well, yeah, it's different. Plus I do coach endurance athletes, and I learned like a lot of reasons why people, even if you're a carnivore and you hurt running, might be your run form, but I mean, might be the way you're landing. Because I used to
Yes.
get injured all the time, and now I'm like, oh, it's because I was hill striking. But uh, look up pose method running if you want to run and you're concerned. If you're a carnivore running.
I'll check it out. Pose method. Thank
Yeah,
you.
something I would like to mention, because I've been doing this a long time. I had some pretty bad oxalate dumping when I first started, and I'm sure it's because I switched from paleo to carnivore, or keto paleo to carnivore, and I ate a lot of greens. I had oxalate dumping that was horrible. Like it would come out of my teeth and pieces would chip off. My joints would swell up and it was crackly. And I mean, this is before Sean Baker's stuff posted everywhere that I was like searching through the carnivore Facebook groups, SMA's group, and you know, way down there's a little blip about or about oxalates, and then I started reading more. But I think, you know, just my experience, I would toggle back and forth between those foods with oxalates like almonds and other things just to ease symptoms, and then I would go back to carnivore. So just because if you have those symptoms, don't, eventually they will go away. Like the
Yeah.
crap behind my teeth, like the chunks. I mean, literally, I thought I chipped a tooth because I had a toothpick, and I chipped a piece of the oxalates off, and I was like, oh my God, I just broke a tooth. And I
Yeah.
went and it was just oxalates.
So did you run into Sally Norton's work during that time that you were?
No, I don't even know. I hadn't even, I just barely heard of her like in the last 6 months, but
Yeah,
no.
it's fantastic. So what were, I'm just curious, what were some of the oxalate dumping besides the teeth and you said joint pain? Was there stuff
The
in your
grit
eye?
in my, well, I had the gritty feeling in my eyes. My joints, like it would be individual joints, and whenever I would like move, like my fingers, I move them, it would feel crackly, like crunchy, and just random places, and in my ankles for a little bit, and eventually it worked itself out. But
Did you
it
ever
was,
feel it, did you ever feel it in your bones?
well, like yeah, in my
Like ankles, I guess.
yeah, my ankles and my fingers were the worst.
Mhm. Yeah, oxalate is a thing for sure, especially with keto diets and paleo diets, or any
Yeah.
of these diets with our heaps of greens and our
Right. And spinach and kale and oh my gosh. But
smoothies.
and then so I don't have that anymore. And I
How long do you
did like,
how long do you think that took you to kind of flush the bulk of that out?
I would say it probably took a couple years.
Mhm.
It was years. It wasn't like, a couple weeks.
Mhm.
But I toggled back and forth because I'm like, this is so painful and I didn't know what it was until I did research. And then I was like, oh, I'll just add this back in and take it out, add it back in, take it out. And then, and I used to sort of, before I really realized what was going on, I would beat myself up like, why can't I just stick to this carnivore thing? But, it hurt, like my joints hurt. And then also like I had a problem with the liquid diarrhea, and it took 45 days for that to resolve. So those people who are like, um, oh my gosh, is this going to last forever? And I thought it was funny, like Joe Rogan's comments when he did that. I'm like, I know that feeling, like, oh my gosh, I got to get to the bathroom. And and it was like liquid, and then some, I don't know, people say mean things. This jerk was like, I think it's those people that happens to. They were eating a crappy diet before. I'm like, I was eating pretty clean before. No, I think I probably had some gallbladder issues. I started taking digestive enzymes and HCl for a while, and now I don't take anything. I still have a little bit of hormone issue, and I see Dr. Nally, who's 100% supportive of the carnivore way of eating, and he has me on pregnenolone, but it's pretty small
What is that?
dose. Pregnenolone is the precursor of your hormones. Your body uses it to make hormones. So my testosterone is still a little low, and my estrogen's a little low, and progesterone. Some of it, I'm sure, is my age, and some of it's like my training volume. But
Yeah, you have a big training volume for sure.
yeah,
So what about thyroid? Any?
I don't have thyroid issues anymore. I had thyroid issues for probably 10 years, but no more thyroid issues, which is good.
When did that stop?
Uh, well, it stopped when for, so I had done carnivore, and then it stopped, and then I decided I wanted to do a bodybuilding competition with a different coach, but not a carnivore coach. And she put me in a traditional bodybuilding diet, and which is back to higher. She said it was low, but it's 100 grams of carbohydrate. But that seems like a lot to me. But she's like, that's not a lot of carbohydrates. And my thyroid issues came back, so I ditched her as a coach. I was like, I just really want to see if this works now. I've done all this work to fix my hormones, and then it did not, and they got worse again. So I went back to carnivore. So for those people, I've gone like carnivore and then back to like that bodybuilding program didn't work. I did carnivore, protein sparing, modified fast, PKD. So I'm back to right now, I still eat chicken, but carnivore, coffee, salt, and vinegar, and just working on getting the macronutrient ratios and the calorie count up where my hormones are happy. I get my hormones checked about every 3 months from Dr. Nally to try to see where they're at and make sure they're not tanking again.
And so what you eat now, it sounds like you're saying you mostly eat beef, or?
I eat beef and then some pork and some eggs, some chicken, sometimes fish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but my friend and I are doing a 15-day beef and butter challenge, but I'm doing beef ghee and see if going back to beef. Although sometimes some people are like, I never get tired of beef, and sometimes I do. My meat of preference is pork. I like pork the best, but I don't feel the best on pork, so I toggle. We'll
I know
see.
Charles Washington likes pork. He eats a lot of pork, I recall.
I mean, pork's just, I don't know, it's just yummy.
Yeah, it's good. I'm just a beef gal, that's all. I'm just a beef gal. Well, it sounds like you're basically eating just a regular good old carnivore, eating different animal foods, and
Yeah.
you're doing mucho activity. That's impressive, and making it work.
Yeah. I mean, I think I wasn't making it work by not eating enough for a while. So for those people who, I think if for women, because I read on the forums and all these women who are like, I'm doing carnivore and I'm gaining weight. I'm like, it might just be your body's regulating itself. Take measurements. And I think the big thing with, what's her name? But
Kelly?
yeah, Kelly Hogan said she had gained 20 pounds before. And before I really started working with Keto Savage, I'm like, I would not let myself gain 20 pounds or like I'm different or whatever. No, I'm not different. I'm 10 pounds heavier than when I started with him. And he said, that's normal. Don't freak out about it. So I guess if I had advice for people, if you're gaining weight and you've had weight issues for your whole life, just stick to it and don't freak out about the scale. That scale is evil.
Yeah, and with your activity level, it's like the body knows it's got to be strong. Like I think I just read on your IG page says something about being weak was dangerous.
Yes, it it is. Well, I was a coach for personal trainer for senior citizens for a long time, and for 8 years. And the number one reason people enter a care center is a lack of leg strength. And that's because they've lost so much muscle mass. So if you do not get enough protein and fat for your hormones, you're going to be weak and you're going to not age well.
Yeah, I think you said it all there. I think that's really rad. I think that's a really great piece of advice for people going into old age. I mean, that's the currency, the important currency of old age besides cold cash is muscle mass and bone density. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I have had my bone density tested, and my bones are more dense than any person that person had seen before.
that's awesome.
They're like, I have never seen anybody who has had that, you're as dense of bones as you have. And he's like, I've been doing this a long time. So
that's inspirational right there.
yeah, and I don't wear sunscreen when I go outside, and I live in Arizona, so I have high levels of vitamin D. So it's not like
Did you Did you notice a difference? Because I noticed a difference with carnivore. I don't sunburn anymore, and I used to. I'm kind of a redhead. So did you notice a difference?
Yeah, I don't something sometimes I do get a little red, but it doesn't peel like it used to. Although I have to say I was on a cruise in the Caribbean. I was a speaker on the low carb cruise talking about well, the differences between being fit and being healthy. And we were out in the sun all day and I did get a pretty bad sunburn. So I think if you're on the beach in the Caribbean with no sunscreen for 8 hours, you will get sunburned. But a couple hours, like I go on 2-3 hour bike rides and I don't wear sunscreen.
Well, I think you're really inspirational about the activity and about the strength. And I love the bone density thing. That's so huge. That's so huge for women, for everyone, but especially for women.
Yeah. I
Thank
think I will tell you when I got tested, I actually had too high of vitamin D and I started to get stiff. And I was eating a lot of sardines at the time. So and my doctor had said, I think you need to cut back on the sardines because you're too high vitamin D makes you stiff. So if anybody listening to this, if you have bone mineral density issues, try some sardines. And I did cut back on the sardines and it went down to, I wasn't stiff anymore.
Cool.
So.
Great. Sardines and sunshine and lots of activity outside.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I'm going to start following you on IG.
Oh, great.
What's it called again? What's your handle?
KetoEndurance.co. KETO endurance.co. I had Keto Endurance and then I switched it to Movement FX because I had a group training thing with Movement FX. And then I went to switch it back and someone had taken it. So now I had to add the CO. So then that's my website too, ketoendurance.co.
What about Movement RX? That would work too.
Oh yes, I like that's a nice one. But I don't know.
But
I think that
Keto Endurance sounds great.
Yeah. So it's like, and people ask, like, can you do? I've done century bike rides as a carnivore. I did do a sprint triathlon as a carnivore. You can do all kinds of activities. I do with people who are trying to go faster. There's no elite endurance athlete who is competitive who's not adding in some carbohydrates. But they time them so that you're not getting the damage. So some of my athletes I coach, we work on timing carbohydrates to give them a performance benefit to produce more ATP, more power. But if you're not a competitive athlete, you don't ever have to add a single carbohydrate in ever.
So on your longest runs, do you bring carbs with you?
I don't even add. In the summer, I have to add some electrolytes to my water or else I'll get cramps because I live in Phoenix. But in the winter, I don't. I just drink water and ride along.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you again.
No problem. Super fun talking to you.
I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And, Carney on. And I'll be watching for your speeds or any other competition that you in. I don't know.
I'm just going to train for Ironman, the 70.3 in Arizona, which is a half Ironman distance. It's a 13.1, or it's a 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike ride, 13.1 mile run. So we'll see how it goes. I haven't done a half Ironman since I switched to keto. I've done, I did 4 others in a full Ironman before keto. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, keep us posted. I'll keep watching. That sounds exciting. Yeah. Hopefully it won't be canceled.
I know. Well, it's October, and I haven't signed up for it. I just figured my friend and I were training for a bodybuilding competition, and I can't go to the gym, so that's not going to happen. We decided we're still going to do it, but we're going to switch it to the spring. But I figure I need a goal. I'm always training for something, and I don't like not training for something. It's not, I don't know, it's just not fun for me. Like, it's fun for me to have a goal and figure out how. So,
Cool. Very cool. Well, thank you again. Thank you again. And I hope to meet you soon.
yeah, I would love to meet you too.
Okay. Thanks and carny on.
Carney on.
Bye now.